Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here today. It's a room full of HR fraternity, a reason for us to talk about what our experiences have been. Being the fourth speaker of the day has its own challenges. I will try avoid repeating some of the principles, but what I will share with you in the next 30 minutes is our journey to great places to work, our experiences in that, and what our learnings were. I'll try and give you the tenets on which we built this experience, but I'll also share with you specific examples of policies and processes that touched our employees' life here. So one question in the last 12 months I've been asked, what does it take, right? I only wish there was a one-word answer or a one-line statement that I could give you. I think Mr. Dwarkanath spoke about it. The number one was an ambition. I will not deny it. It was an ambition that we've been on for 8 years. Every day, day in and day out, me, my team, and my entire leadership, as well as every organization, every employee in the organization. But one thing that I can start with is that journey for you is going to be more important than the number one. Because the journey will teach you a lot. And trust us, we had our ups and downs. There were years that we thought we would be much better in the ranking and we weren't. There were years we thought would be lower, but we were better. One thing that stood out for us is when we were number one, it was not just an external recognition. It is because every employee in the organization believed we were number one. And I'll tell you why. Just to get everybody on the same platform, what does GPW really track? So there are two elements to the entire Great Places to Work survey. One, which is the employee feedback. That's where your employees respond to a very extensive questionnaire, which is focused on how they are experiencing the organization. The second element is a culture audit, which is an assessment of our policies, processes, and so on and so forth across 15 HR parameters. 1/3 of the weightage is to your policy document. 2/3 is to what your employees say. So no matter what you do in policies and benefits, will not land well unless your employee has experienced. And we learned it the hard way, and I'll share the journey there with you. The three things that are very important from an employee's perspective is they trust who they work for, they believe they have pride in the work that they do, and they enjoy it with the people that they collaborate. These are three things that are coming out very, very strongly, and as you talk about engagement and experience, these will be the same elements. Couldn't have said it better than in Simon Sinek's word. People don't buy what we do, they buy why we do. As HR fraternity, I think we focus a lot on what we are going to do, or what that means. The why gets left out sometimes in the communication. We've learned over a period of time, you need to have one big guiding star. There are CHROs in the room, I'm sure you all have a vision and a strategy. You have very, very clear mission statements put on posters, put in your organization. But can I say that every random employee that we pick will say the same thing? Maybe not. And that is one thing that we made an effort to. We set out it with a mission saying that we want to be the most innovative company in the SAP ecosystem here in India. It was a very big, ambitious statement to make. We have 47 years of existence. We were started by 5 Germans. It's difficult to beat German engineering. But we said that with pride. We believed it. I have 13,000 employees in the country today, and it was something every single one of them today believes. It took us many years to get there. We had to change a lot of stuff internally within HR as a fraternity, as well as within our leaders on what they needed to do. But we had one North Pole. We said we want to be the most innovative. And we did everything in the last 3 years to go in the same direction. Nothing, no policy, no benefit, no announcement was made which was not linked to this one North Pole. Sorry. I'll go back. Can we go back to the previous slide? Yeah. I think the speakers have spoken about world-class experience. There were 2 tenets that we learned. Of course, the policies and practices side of the story, but the employee experience side of the story. We're very good. I think in a lot of forums like this, we talk about what are the next best practices, what are the best practices, what are the other companies doing, what can we learn, how can we apply that in our organization. We went one step forward. We said we just don't want to apply the practices. We want to see if the employee experience is getting touched or not. And this is a little bit tricky as a situation. You will realize that there are times we are supposed to do certain things because that is required out of our function. We won't admit it outside of our room, but are we giving the best employee experience? And this is one single question we asked every time. I'll give you a specific example. We make things efficient, we improve processes, we improve efficiency. Do we improve experience at the same time? Is it at the cost of one another? We keep speaking about H going out of HR, the human element. All of us have the same challenge. How can we bring wow moments in somehow a scalable manner? You want to have a career conversation with every single employee, but can you have 3,000 HR people to answer? You can't do that. That's not something that is a scalable model. But it is very important to an employee that there is a human speaking to him or her about their personal career needs. We went back to the drawing board. We changed how the HR organization looks like, what the design looks like. We brought in specialists. We brought in coaches from business to have those conversations. So we did a lot of stuff internally before we even touched our employees. So world-class experiences, whatever that you decide to do, go back to the drawing board from an employee experience standpoint and ask the difficult questions. And this is not just for your regular employee or the loyal ones who've been with the organization for decades. Ask the same question to a millennial who's come in a month ago. He or she will have very different expectations. Unless you can meet the needs across the border, don't start with that as a policy. Co-creating. Co-creating and customizing. Co-creating it is not very easy, I must admit, to let the reins go from your hands, right? As HR, we talk about governance, we talk about control, and we like it to some extent because we believe we are the owners of organization's culture. Yes, we are architects, but we are not the owners. We need to play that role a little bit categorically going forward. What I mean is we started something called Change Makers. These are 400 employees who raised their own hand to volunteer to make our company the best place to work. We didn't push for anything. We spoke to them and we said, you raise your hands. 400 of them came forward. They worked for 6 months on 15 topics, from transport to facilities, to policies of internal transfer, how to move career movements happen, how to recognize people more effectively. They came back and made proposals. In most companies, I know you would have idea managements, you would have people give you feedback. The difference was we as leadership let go. We took a backseat from design. So they just didn't come with the idea. They came from design. They worked with all stakeholders whose life they touch. They negotiated with them on a better practice. They made the agreement, they made the buy-in, and they executed. So the ownership moved away from just HR and leadership to employees. Employees realized. So for example, somebody came with the idea saying, we want to be able to have better support for higher education. We said, fair. Okay, tell us how will you do it for all employees? Will anybody not like support for higher education? No, tell us how do you do it. We gave them the budget. Trust me, you will see employees coming back. Once they see the other side of the story of what it takes as leaders to take those decisions, they will come back with a lot more reasonable plans. And then they will be your promoters to the larger organization. You have to let go, and that's one of the difficult lessons of our lives. The co-creating employee experience part of it also taught us something. The one benefits fits all approach is out of the window. It's no more a possibility that you can go forward with it. So we went to an extreme step. For every starter and segment of our employees, we have something that is more meaningful. I'll give you an example. Gender is very important. Diversity is very important to SAP. If I take gender as an example, for women, we realize that our challenges are very different depending on which life stage we are at, right? At the time where we're starting our careers, when we're getting married, when you're planning for a family, when your kids are stepping out of home, and that could be for men and women. The development needs for women were very, very different. So we built programs consistently for every single category, be it LEAP for development of into managerial roles, or for Confluence through sponsorship or reverse mentoring, or people coming back from maternity on a back-to-work program. We built programs for millennials. Millennials, the most important thing, and I really like the analysis that was showed, one of the biggest requests for millennials is not about the facilities. Yes, they of course like fancy facilities, but to them the question is, are they doing the best work of their careers with you? If they're not, They're not interested to be with you. And that's why it becomes, we put in from Freshers Day, where we fly in freshers who've not yet joined us, 1 full day to spend in our offices with their managers, with their leaders, do some fun activities, get to know how the company looks like, culture, to them coming in and a continuous engagement over 2 years, to doing stretch assignments on the most cutting-edge topics. Every starter, women, millennials, experts. Experts are very, very important. We're a product company. Our knowledge is in the people who have done that work, who understand that technology, or who are willing to listen. We build expert experience programs. Again, we have managerial programs, not just programs, we have a forum. I have 700 managers in my company, and they come together once a quarter. They define what they want to do. They define their learning needs. We support them as HR and leadership, but they decide what they would like to invest on. They all come together, and we make that happen. In terms of specific initiatives that I'd like to share with you, there were 3 things that we told our employees. 1, we will help you achieve your dreams. So dream big, but we'll help you achieve that. 2nd, we will care for you and your family. And this was the element of really touching somebody's life. The 3rd, SAP is going to be your happy place. And I'll give you examples of what we mean there. Innovation, like I said, was the single most important thing here. Our brand philosophy, our EVP, is bring everything that you are and become everything that you want to be. We truly believe that every employee has talent. You bring something to the table. We want to acknowledge you, not just for your skills, but for what you bring in, your passion, your interests outside as well. We went onto the innovation journey full steam. We have a startup studio to an extent that we have a startup studio inside. If you are somebody who has aspirations of being an entrepreneur, you have an idea in your head and you want to move forward with it, we will help you. And classical examples, we had 3 developers, right? 4 to 5 years experience, not more. I'm talking 2 years ago. They came as a part of a hackathon with an idea for an HR product, which does resume screening, so improves efficiency in your talent acquisition process. They pivoted. So they won the hackathon, which is great. They got called onto the stage. A big check was given to them. They felt very good. They had a drink in the evening. The next day, they came back and said, we want to work forward. Like, we want to work on this prototype. We want to make it a product. We put them through a 7-month program on how to become an entrepreneur truly. And this was supposed to be work here in India. They were sent to Palo Alto to get experience with other startups, along with having investment. So as SAP IO, we put in money. We are invested in them. The company is called Brilliant Hire, or the product is called Brilliant Hire. It does resume screening with the objective of removing bias from the system and making the process more efficient. But look at what we did for those 3 employees. It became a role model that you could do a lot here at SAP. And one thing that they tell me, I'm still in touch with them because, of course, they support the HR product. Their journeys is what they went back and shared with the larger organizations. They went through a lot. To pitch to a VC funding is a very different ball game than sitting and coding in front of your computer. So we learned to do things differently. Traditionally, this is not something SAP would have done, but we believe now this is the way forward, and that's why we do it. And even somebody who has dreams of doing something completely outside of IT, we allow them entrepreneurial sabbatical. You go out, do what you want. If you succeed, great, we will be happy for you. If you don't, we'll take you back as well. Because that experience of that you have as an entrepreneur is still useful for us. So that's something that as a call we took, and we allow for quite a few of these. Innovation dashboards. Transparency is going to be key to your organization. Again, innovation dashboard was a little drastic. We said we will make a dashboard and we will make it completely public. Anybody who does innovation in this company can put their request in the system. And if you're selected amongst top 25 per quarter, you get 25,000 rupees, but it's visible to everybody. So suddenly you empower people to do this. Because as organizations, we realize if you do a one-time event once in a year, which is a hackathon, or 2 times in the year, it does not sustain. It doesn't become the culture. We put in awards for the biggest failures. It takes a lot of guts to say that you tried but failed in front of 10,000 people. We made that a culture. And we started with the leader himself. Our top leader got onto the stage and said, we tried this product now 2 years in a row, we've failed, but this is our learning out of that exercise. And this is how we will try and do it differently. It takes a lot of courage, but these were the cultural changes that we got up and did. Career development. I think one big, if I have to leave you with one big element in the HR fraternity that changed the culture, was we moved away from performance rating. And we couldn't have done it without technology behind. We use the mobile app for performance. So, you know, the goals that you would have started at the beginning of the year may not even be the ones that are relevant by the end of the year. That's how dynamic things have become for us. And that changed mindset. We said, okay, if your goals are changing, so should your conversation. Can your conversation not be once a year conversation? Can you make it a more continuous, more forward-looking conversation? We were very nervous. I can tell you the year that we started, this is the 4th year for us. The year that we started, India had a pilot of 1,200 people. And trust me, that was a year we weren't sure how that would look like. If you don't give managers a performance rating, will they do a differentiated compensation? Or will your best talent walk out of the door because they believe you're not doing enough for them? All our fears were put to rest. When you allow this and we put the system in place, you back it up with technology, you make it mobile, you make it user-friendly. We saw the same bell curve. I will tell you, in the analysis of with my total rewards head, we had the 2 curves, so how people are paid, and it was exactly the same, of the pilot and the non-pilot group. So when you empowered managers, train them on how to do it, how to have a continuous conversation, you set expectations with the employees of they are equally responsible for their career, it worked out for us. Now, for 3 years, we've not had performance ratings. We still identify catalysts in the organization to develop them, but we've now found many, many ways with the help of technology where we relate to better experiences. We just don't talk about goals and developments. We talk about working style. We talk about work environment. One question that I would have for this audience, how many of you actually ask your own direct reports, you don't have to raise your hand, if they have a challenge outside of work? So some of us do that. I see some of you nodding, but not all of us. And this is one of the biggest elements of an employee's engagement with you as a manager. Now, some of us do it because we are closer with some employees. We have a better equation. But can all of us do it? It's not natural. These are some of these elements that need to be taught. And we learned this out of this exercise. When we moved away from performance ratings, people weren't not necessarily worried what their comp is going to be. They wanted to know, how can you help me develop better? And that also meant it needed more time from the managers, but we did that. And that also supported our LMS. I was sharing this with another customer yesterday that I met in the afternoon. As HR professionals, we struggle to make learning a part of our culture, right? Because effectively, no matter what technology I teach you, it will change in 3 to 5 years, so the only thing I can teach you is actually how to learn. What we did with Learning Recommender, and this was one experiment, we made the biggest posters in HR, learning maps, what to do if you're in this career path, that career path, we put it everywhere. Some people adopted it. Some people went up onto success maps and, add in the trainings. One fresher came to us one day. He was free. He came back and said, he was not in the development roles, but was an engineering background. He came back and said, I'm bored. I don't want to do this. I came to you guys 6 months ago. I want to do development. And I said, you've just been in this team 6 months. Give it some time. He says, no, I've given it time, but I want to work very specifically in IoT. Now, this is from a grade A college. So you want to be respectful to somebody's interests as well, but how do you manage business? We went back, gave that particular employee opportunities to work in other teams on top of his work for 6 months. In the 6 months, he filed 7 patents. 7 patents fresh out of college. Brilliant chap. In 1 year, we made him move to another team that he wanted to work with. Now, these are exception stories, but I'll tell you what worked. The Learning Recommender, the LMS, he started learning, not because we told him or his manager told him. He started learning newer technologies because the friend whom he went out on a Friday evening with him told him about a training program in the LMS that he found interesting. So this whole concept of group learning, or the way millennials learn, is very different. Peer recommendations are going to become even more important. The system and the platform allows you to do that. So you're not sitting on top and saying, providing guidance. Of course, you can provide guidance as managers, but as employees, that's something that they look forward to. So there's a lot that we did around career development. Our techno school is actually run by experts in the company. There's nobody externally who teaches you. We're just running the machine learning courses from content creation to delivery to execution to evaluation. This is completely done by the people for the people. And it has a fairly rigorous process. But the core of it is two things, is innovation, or whatever is the organization, one single vision that you're driving, and how does that touch my employee's life? Caring for my family. I think one element that we cannot underestimate in India is the engagement that we have with the larger family. One program that I will talk about and I'm personally proud about is Care for Life. Care for Life is a voluntary contribution fund where every employee in the company contributes. And we use this money to take care in case of unfortunate circumstances. If I have an employee, and I did have an employee who passed away, he was a 24-year-old gentleman, engineering graduate who had come single, only child of a farmer in Tamil Nadu. I cannot tell you how that felt to me, that parent, and absolutely nothing. He just had a heart attack on a weekend at home alone and was rushed to the hospital. Very, very unfortunate. There's nothing I can replace that loss. But for the rest of their life, for the parents, we provide monthly amount to take care of their needs. This is something that we've been driving, we provide, and this is not one-off cases. I'll give you another example. We had a husband and wife in a car accident that passed away. The wife was our employee, 2 children, okay? Both sides, they're the only children, and the parents are, of course, retired. For their 2 kids, till they graduate, we will provide for their education. It is a commitment that we make as SAP. And we do this out of a voluntary fund. This is not an SAP-funded thing. This is something the employees come together. So we truly believe this is why we are a family. We stand by each other. Medical cases, insurance, our insurances are getting better, but they're still, they're high-end expenses that get taken, that take a lot of money. That's something that we cover as well. So there's a lot that we do where we say that we just don't care for you and your well-being. Of course, we have a lot of programs. We have Fit at SAP, we have, Fitbits are a big thing, Apple Watches are a big thing, fitness is a big thing. We're going next step. We're not just talking about physical fitness. Now we're talking about mental fitness. We've institutionalized elements of mental well-being, even nutritional, eating habits. How are we doing that? We're doing it using technology. So you can actually it's a platform where you can form groups and you compete, not just on the number of steps, but let's say it will give you a task saying, can you do a 5-minute meditation today? Can you go and spend time with an old friend? Can you reconnect? These are some elements that will bring a more holistic person to the office, somebody who will be more happier. And that's to the next topic. How can you make your workplace truly happy? And I don't mean happy from a sense of today I was offered great food. It's happiness which is more deeper, where you know that you're taken care of and then you're respected for who you are. We, of course, give you every possible flexibility in work, work from anywhere, part-time, mobile work, all of that. But more importantly, it's the entire mindset with which we look at you. We give you enough and more opportunities where you can define what you want. And one classical example is flexible benefits. It's something that we launched about 2 years ago. As an employee, you can decide what benefits you want to use. So if you're single, let's say you love traveling, you can use that money to travel the world. You can use that money, and somebody did climb Everest Base Camp with that money as well. So, you can do that. Or if you're married, I don't know, you want to take your kid to some particular program, that's something you can do. We've identified 4 areas. We've said personal development, health and wellness, diversity and inclusion as categories with which you can use that money. But essentially, you are in the driving seat. As HR, we provide you one platform where we give it to you. You decide how you want to consume it. Somebody who's very popular photographer is actually a part-time photographer with us. Bought exceptional camera lenses. He actually won the National Geographic competition for the India region. Somebody used that money. It's just a matter of choice. It's a matter of saying that I respect the choices you will make. The one other thing that I think all of us talk about long-term employees with us, and we celebrate that, right? Birthdays, anniversary, newborns, all of this stuff we do. For Bandhan, which is our long service awards, we call the families in. Something as small as that, and that's one day in the year that I feel most fulfilled. because that is when you meet the family that has stood behind that employee. You meet the parents, you meet the children who come back and say, I don't want my mother to leave this place ever. And it's something very small. It's like he was saying, there's just a car that is sent to pick them up. So they have an option of asking for a car and we can get them. It's not a big deal. But that's something that stays with them. The way they're greeted. And we do it in over multiple days because the size is bigger today, but we have not let go of the human element. So there are some things we try and make it efficient, but there are elements of that experience that we don't touch. One other last learning is how we communicate in HR. Can I just see a quick raise of hands if you've launched a policy over email? Policy, benefit, you send an employee mails? How many of you think they read it now? But not as well as we like them to be, right? So we learned that we had to change how we communicate with our employees. So when we, and you see 3-4 examples here. The first one is about how you shape your workplace or your future of work. So all we wanted to say is what are the various options that are available to you in terms of how do you grow with SAP and what programs are available to you. But the way we represented it was very different. And the same thing, what you see on the extreme, it's a policy and a benefit. It's actually a roadmap from the time that somebody conceives to the delivery to how it is taken care of, what are the various benefits that are represented. So if you are an SAP parent, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, what are the things that are done for you. So we really had to go out and say, we're not communicating as HR, we're communicating the way the employee wants to read it, right? A lot of our policies and processes are read by employees when they need it. They don't necessarily read it day in and day out. So you need to let them know when they need it, how all of them talk together. So this was a fundamental shift that we do. I still do launches on emails. My team is sitting here. So yes, we do launches on emails, but we are now cognizant of how we bring them together from an employee perspective. So what did it take us? Yes, of course, we were #1 great place to work in India. We're very proud of it. But 2 other categories that we won for was the best culture of innovation, and this really brought in a smile because that is what we were gunning after, and the best workplace for women. Again, something that we're personally very, very proud of. There's a lot in the systems and technologies today that we can do to eliminate bias, from every employee's life cycle. This is a topic personally close to me. From being able to recognize the biases that we have in ensuring how in each HR process can we eliminate that using technology will itself give you a running lead than a lot of other places. It's not just a good to have, it's a moral responsibility to provide an equal and fair workplace. Just to close, the only limitation or the only limit to your impact is 2 things. Is your imagination of how you want to touch your employees' experience and our commitment as the HR fraternity. Thank you. Should I take questions? Should I take questions? Yes. Okay. We have a couple of minutes. I just left them. In case you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer that.
Keep this vibe flowing.
No questions? All right. Sure.
How do you manage the stakeholders using this change in the organization?
A very important one and a tricky one for HR. Let me start with, I became best friends with my CFO. Let me put it this way, yes, they were tough discussions. At the end of the day, when it comes down to how do you want to spend an X amount of money, there's always a question. Everybody will have an opinion and everybody will have a priority. And that's true. But one thing that we signed off, and that's why I said the purpose is important, you had to put a North Star that all of us believed. So the 4 or 5 of us around the table, including the MD, the CFOs, me, we had to agree that our North Star is going to be the most innovation, the place with the best innovation capabilities. Once we agreed to that, then we chalked out our plans individually. But to get to that took some time, right? Because everybody has their own priorities, and there are some pushes that are coming, from global rollouts and so on and so forth. Yes, that's the case. It was a question of negotiation, but at times, but in most cases, once we aligned what we wanted to do, we always kept the impact at the center. We said, if this is going to touch my employee and make him or her better as a whole person, we will allow that. Yes, there were days that I let's say, pushed my rollout a month later for something else, but there were days when we got priority as well. So if I have to answer it, they took a lot of time in stakeholder management. It was really important to get the first level agreement done, saying that's what we're going to go after, and this is how we will prioritize over anything else. Were there sudden unexpected turns? Yes, there were. There are times you have to manage financials, but we never took a second step. We tried to see how best to manage it, given the circumstances.
What's your advice to changing the mindset of people from moving traditionally to have a different game changer?
That is your big game changer. Your big game changer is going to be the mindset change. It's not about your policy. It's not about your practices. It's how that is consumed. So I'll give you one small example, and maybe that will make you realize. We spoke a lot about gender. We spoke about equal opportunity. We changed our paternity policy. So earlier, traditionally, paternity policy was allowed couple of weeks, 2 weeks. You typically take it on the time the child is born. Now that worked for us for a few years. But then we realized men don't take it. So one thing that we went back and did, we said, okay, we understand we want you to spend time. We want you to be equal parents because it's important for us. It's important for the children who see that. We made it 4 weeks, and we now give the flexibility of using it any time during the year. You have a lot of men now taking it when the woman goes back to work. And trust me, amongst all the policies that I launched, this is something so many men came back and said, I'm so thrilled that diversity is working for us. That was a change in mindset. So it's not just about one element of society that you're trying to take care of, but you're truly trying to take care of a balanced approach. So that's one example that I can share.